Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Did She Just Say Sex? If this is your first time here, hi, welcome. I'm your host, Lanikai, and this is a Christian sex podcast. This is a podcast where sex is the umbrella and we talk about everything under that because sex is not just physical. There's so many things that come up under it. And if you already know me and you're already a listener, you're welcome. And I'm joking, it's nice to have you back. And yeah, literally, as always, make sure you're liking, subscribing, following the podcast on all of our social platforms to stay tapped in with all things Did She Just Say Sex? I know this podcast episode is a little bit late. I apologize. I'm posting on Friday rather than Thursday because guess what? The audio deleted. Recorded the episode and the audio just deleted. The audio was nowhere to be found. Isn't that amazing? Thank God, you guys. So I've had to re-record. I'm literally recording this Thursday night so I can post this on Friday for y'all. Don't say I don't try hard. Don't say I don't look after y'all. Making sure you get an episode weekly. But usually episodes are out every single Thursday in the morning. Greenwich Mean Time. So whatever country you're in. Because I've been looking at the analytics. And I have a lot of Americans. I got a lot of American citizens listening to the podcast. And there's a lot of French people. Bonjour. We have a lot of French listeners. And then obviously the UK, repping the UK. But yeah, Thursdays in the morning, Greenwich Mean Time, whatever time that is for y'all. But yeah, make sure you're following, liking, subscribing, doing all the lovely stuff to stay tapped in with everything that's happening here because we've really just begun. Like, before I do get into the episode as well, I do want to say thank you because the response to the past 3 episodes has been overwhelming, but in the best way. It may seem that I'm really confident on this mic to talk because I'm a yapper and I can talk, right? But it may seem that I'm like so confident and carefree talking about the things that we're discussing. But I have been so scared to start this podcast. Not because I don't think it's not needed, like I know this is something that the body needs, but because it's such a taboo topic, I was scared in doing this. I was scared in God entrusting me with this because it is something that is such a taboo, and because it's a taboo, it's not easy to talk about. But it's something we should talk about. So I've been seeing you guys' questions and dilemmas that you've been submitting, some of your DMs just wanting to reach out, and I read every single message, I look at every single response, and I appreciate it. So yeah, y'all are keeping me going because if it was up to me, I wouldn't be doing this. But if God says go, then I'm a go. But like I said, like, subscribe, do all the lovely stuff. But today's episode, as you can see from the title, I'm going to be talking about dating. And I think dating is going to be a topic that comes up a lot on this podcast. It's going to be something that's talked about through the duration of this podcast. This is not going to be the only dating episode per se, but I feel like a lot of the past episodes have been quite serious, which was intentional because I did want to open the podcast clearly showing the intention of the podcast. But today I just want to talk. There's not necessarily rather an outline like I have had for other episodes. This is just me talking about dating because dating for me is really difficult. And I know dating for every single Christian is difficult, but dating has been something that for me personally in my walk with God, I've struggled with, if I'm honest, because I truly do have the desire to marry. I have the desire to be a partner, to be a wife, to be with someone. And I think in this day and age, it's so hard to uphold that desire with everything around me. You know what I mean? Like, it's really difficult to have faith that, God's going to send me the man and I'm going to have my ring, because the dating pool is horrible. Guys in the church just, they don't be doing the thing. It's really hard. So today I wanted to just get into why dating is difficult for me, my story around dating, because it's easy to have a podcast, and I don't want this, as I've always said this from the beginning, this is not a podcast of me talking at you guys, because I don't know everything. A lot of the episodes are going to be me just being real and telling you guys my own tea, because I know my tea is going to help someone else. But yeah, today we're talking about dating. And I think a good way to start is to talk about my history with dating. So I was in a very long relationship. And not even to tell my tea, y'all, but I was in a relationship for a long time, as in high school sweethearts. I am 25 now, but I was in a relationship for 8 years. And we broke up when I was 22, just turned 22. So from 15 to 22, y'all can do the math. That's a long time. And this is the person that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. I invested a lot of my life in this person. Even for the last 2 to 3 years of the relationship, we lived together. So you can imagine how much went into that relationship, how serious that relationship was. And leaving that relationship was really difficult because I can't necessarily say, I mean, it wasn't a good relationship, but I can't turn around and say that it was a horrible relationship. Things just didn't work. And I think it's a lot easier to break up with someone when they've done you wrong or they've done something. Not saying that that man did not do some things, but it's a lot easier to leave a relationship when you can be angry at the person. It's a lot easier to kind of move on and say, yeah, like that person did me dirty. Of course, I don't want to be with them. But when a relationship breaks down just because it's not going to work, fundamentally, it's not going to work, that can be really difficult. So upon breaking up, I just started to feel like, whoa. What is going on? Especially living with this person and with a lot of my identity being in this relationship. Because we need to remember 15 to 22, those are your formative years as a young adult. And I spent those years in a relationship. So leaving that relationship, I genuinely had to ask myself, who am I? Do I actually enjoy the things I enjoy? Or are these things I enjoyed because I was with a person and I enjoyed it with them? I really had to seriously knuckle down and evaluate my life. And that was really, really difficult. That was something that up to now, I think is one of the most difficult things I've been through because I've always said, and this might seem like an exaggeration, but that relationship, it wasn't a breakup, it was a divorce. Living with someone, having joint bank accounts with someone, having bills in y'all's name together and all of that stuff, like it was not a breakup, it was a divorce. And the breakup wasn't even clean. It wasn't like, oh, okay, bye, never speak again. Years after we broke up, we were still in communication because, and not constantly, but he was still lingering. Number one, trying to make it work. But then at the same time, the first couple of months after we broke up, it was, okay, who's going to have this? Who's going to have that? Oh, we need to sign a new lease. We need to, dissociate ourselves from each other, like credit-wise. Like it took a lot. It took a lot. I'm really telling my business today. Wow. It really took a lot. So coming out of that relationship, I told myself, you know what? Actually, to be honest, I did date casually after that. Naturally you get out of a relationship and you're like, okay, cool, I'm going to date, I'm going to do this, da, da, da. Dating at that point was exciting because the last time I dated was when I was 15. And I didn't even date the guy for real. We met, we got on a relationship. We had breaks every now and then and I talked to a guy here and there, but like I hadn't dated, especially as a young adult. So 22, single, I was loving dating, going on dates, seeing guys doing that. And it got to a point where I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, baby, I don't want to do this. I just realized like, wait, I was in a serious relationship. And now I'm just talking to people for the sake of talking to them. I lived with a man and now I'm going to texting and FaceTiming people. Honestly, I was like, nope, I don't want to do this. And I stopped dating. I completely stopped dating. Like consciously, I said, I don't want to date anymore. And being in that space at 22, I remember a lot of my friends looking at me like, no, like it will pass. It's just a season. Like you just got out of a relationship. Take some time for yourself to heal. The typical love yourself, put yourself first. Like that's what everyone around me was saying. But I knew deep down, I was not interested in dating. And I stopped dating. I, at the time, lived in London and I moved out of London. I just wanted a complete change with my life. I moved out of London into one of my family's homes, left my job, literally started from scratch. And at that point, this was in 2023, I said, I don't want to date. Consciously, I don't want to date. And for 3 years, I didn't have a guy in my phone. I didn't have a guy that I was texting. I didn't have a situationship. I didn't have anyone in my phone telling me good morning. I didn't have nobody paying for my maintenance. I had dear damn nothing like that. I had nothing like that. And it's because I just didn't want it. I wasn't interested in being in a relationship or talking to a man unless it was going to be the love of my life. I had high expectations for relationships because, like I said, even though the relationship wasn't perfect, I had built an infrastructure that was meant to be unstoppable. I had built an infrastructure in a relationship that was meant to be my man. So the fact that even though I didn't go about everything correctly, the fact that I was coming out of that, I said, yeah, I'm not interested. I genuinely wanted a man to come to me and say, God sent me. And if, as delusional as that sounds, I genuinely did not want to talk, date, do anything unless a man came up to me and said, yeah, God sent me, I'm your husband. I wasn't interested. So for 3 years, didn't date. We'll say 2.5 years, didn't date at all. Y'all might not believe me now. And I'm not saying there weren't men there. Of course, for all women, there's always a guy who's trying to talk to you. There's always a guy in your DMs, or there's always a guy who pops back around from the past talking about some, hey, long time, how have you been? There's always a guy that tries to sneak back around, on your birthday. There's always that. And even my ex multiple times tried to come back. And I'm not going to say that I did not give in. I'm not going to say that I did not give in. But I just didn't want to date. I wasn't interested in it. And towards the end of 2025, so last year, mid-2025, I started to feel like, you know what? I want to be with someone. And it was difficult because I realized that me not dating was actually avoidance. It wasn't because I didn't want to be in a relationship. It wasn't because I felt the calling of Paul on my life, the calling to be single. It wasn't that. I have a strong desire to be married, and God doesn't give people a desire in vain. One thing I've always said, there's no desire that's in vain. If God's put something on your heart, there's probably a reason. So from young, I've always wanted to be a mother and be a wife. So I was like, okay, cool. What's going on here? Am I not dating because I'm, wanting to put myself first and look after myself and heal? Or am I being avoidant? And I realized that I was being avoidant. And that realization was really difficult for me because I'm a lover girl. If you know me, boy, do I love. Hello, hi. I love hard. So realizing that my last relationship made me avoidant, it cut deep. It cut deep, y'all. It made me feel like I was kind of allowing the enemy to convince me that maybe relationships weren't for me. Maybe I wasn't meant to be with someone. Maybe I was meant to be alone. And it was really, really difficult because I love my own space. But there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. I was thinking that I was lonely because I was alone. But that wasn't the case. I was translating absence of a person to loneliness. And that's not the case. And I'm not even going to say that God had me in what do people call it? I'm not even going to say that God had me in a wilderness season per se, or a season where it was just me by myself and he was like a separation season. Yeah. He didn't even have me in one of those. I was consciously avoiding relationships because I was scared. And that's the truth. I was scared to give myself to someone after what I had already been through and for it to just not work. I didn't want to do that. Honestly, I didn't want to do that. So I said, God, okay, cool. If you truly want me to be with someone, remind me why I have the desire. And there was a day where I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I love love. I can't explain it. I don't know if you heard me click just then, but it was a sudden shift. It was literally, there was a shift. There was a wind in the air. There was a wind in the air. And I truly felt God saying, yeah, you are meant to be with someone, but you need to trust me. My, dating experience in my past was me and my own understanding. Like I said I keep saying last Sunday, this ain't church, y'all. Like I said last Thursday, we are called to lean not on our own understanding. And every relationship I had built was on my own understanding. God was not the center. So God said to me, you feel like you're not built for a relationship, or that you're not going to be in a relationship, or you're not going to find someone because I'm not your standard. And I said, oh, okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. You need to be the standard. Got it. So I told myself, 2026, I'm going to open up my heart again. I'm going to start dating. I'm going to, allow people to speak to me, because I didn't even allow, y'all, I did not even allow a man to speak to me. I didn't care if he was my type. If a guy approached me, immediately, sorry, I'm not interested. And not even in a rude way, like I'd engage in conversation. Hi, how are you? Yeah, my name's Lanikai. Da, da, da. But as soon as it was so what? Like, let me get your number. As soon as it was that, it was no, I'm not interested. Sorry. And they said, oh, do you have a boyfriend? No. Oh, do you don't? No, I'm just not interested. I probably passed up on some good men, all because I wanted to be stingy, all because I wanted to be avoidant. Listen, if you're a guy listening to this and I've told you to leave me alone, come back, because you might be the actually no, don't. Don't come back. Don't come back. Don't come back, I'm lying. But yeah, I probably passed up on some really good guys that I could have had good experiences with in terms of dating, because I was being avoidant. So I said, Lord, 2026, open up my heart. Open up my heart. I'm ready. I'm ready. Where the heck is my husband? What is taking him so long? It was taking him long because I was hiding myself. I wasn't in like a secretion era. I was literally hiding myself. So 2026 comes around and I tell myself, okay, cool, let's consciously start dating. Now, the type of area that I live in, all I'm going to say is I'm not finding my bacon here. And by bacon, I mean my type. Okay? I'm going to start letting you guys into a bit of my lingo. You guys need to start understanding the way I speak, because my bacon's not here. My bacon's not here. And my type, and this is another thing, child, my type is so specific. My type is really, really, really specific. And I almost, as well as in dating, I had this kind of feeling that why is my type not approaching me? That's something I went through. I'm going through currently. Why is my type not approaching me? And it made me feel like, wait, are my expectations too high? Do I want something that's like unattainable? But I just realized that my type is rare, which makes it difficult for me. And I'm not going to go into like the absolute details of my type, but my type, I like pretty men. The Barbie boys. You know the I like the pretty boys. Yeah. The guys that get trims every week. The guys that keep their face looking good. They have a skincare routine. They look good. The guys that groom their eyebrow. Yeah, me like pretty boy. Me love pretty boy. I love a boy that just looks pretty, like a good face. Good-faced men. And that's all I'm going to say. Because if I was to build a man right now, I might be blocking my blessing. That's another thing, actually. Imagine, like, saying what your type is and then not marrying your type. If I don't marry my type, just know that that man had to surpass my type. Because my type is so specific. But as I digress, let me not get distracted. As I digress, I was like, wait, why is my type not liking me? And I just realized that my type is rare. The area I live in, my type is not here. Dare I say my type probably is not even in the UK. My type does not reside here. Yeah, my type is not here. So that was one thing I really struggled with going into dating again. I didn't like the look of anyone. And I think as Christians, we have this like conception that you're not allowed to have a type, or you're not allowed to have physical preferences. Hello? Kill that rhetoric immediately. Hang it. Hang it. By the way, you're allowed to have a type. You're allowed to have a type. You're allowed to have physical attributes that you want in a person. It's not vain and it's not shallow. You ought to be attracted to your partner, men and women. I think there's this rhetoric as Christians that as long as they're a good Christian person and they have good Christian values, it's okay. Yeah, have that, but also be hot to me. Because I see your face before I hear you speak, no? Hello? Hi? I see your face before I hear you speak. I hear you, I see you before I hear you. So even for the chance to hear you, to even know about this, your good Christian values, I need to be attracted to you. It's not wrong to be attracted to someone. And the one thing I hate the most is when you see these Christian couples on podcasts or on episodes or whatever platform it is. And they're like, yeah, when I first met my husband, I wasn't attracted to him. But as time went on, nope. Nope. If my husband has anything like that to say about me, annul the marriage. Annulment. Not even a divorce, an annulment. The marriage never happened. Hello? I must be disgustingly attracted to my husband. Disgustingly attracted to my husband. As in, I look at you. Hello? Hi. I ought to be disgustingly attracted to my husband. My husband ought to be disgustingly attracted to me. Why would I want to date someone I'm not attracted to? Why would I want to marry someone I'm not attracted to? Knowing that this is someone that I'm going to be baby making with. Hello? Baby making, that's so intimate, and I open my eyes and I see something I don't like. Hello? No, that is not happening. So the fact that my type is already rare, there's a wide archetype of my type, but my type in essence, I don't see it on an everyday. So I was already like, oh, Lord, are my standards too high? And then on top of like not finding my type physically all the time or very rarely, my friends call me strict, right? I don't think I'm strict. I just think I know what I like, right? I strongly believe that going into dating, men and women, you have to have two lists. Two lists. Your non-negotiables and your desirables, okay? Your non-negotiables are things that this person absolutely has to have. If they don't have these things, they don't qualify. Even if there's one thing, if there's 5 things on that list and they don't have one, they don't qualify. Those are qualities, attributes, things in your person that you know you need to have. And then you have your desirables. These are things that you would like in a person. If they don't have them, it's okay. But these are things you'd like. For example, for me, a non-negotiable obviously is that he's a Christian. He follows Jesus as a person and his principles. That's a non-negotiable. I will not be marrying someone who says they're a Christian, but, isn't a Christian in their actions, just in their words. They can just say, I'm a Christian. No. I wouldn't marry someone outside of the faith. No. That, for me, is an absolute non-negotiable. But an example of a desirable is I would love for my husband to speak more than one language, because I only speak one language, and I would really want my kids to be bilingual, trilingual maybe. I think it's beneficial to know more than one language, but I'm not going to X someone off if they only speak one language. Do you know what I mean? So do you kind of understand what I mean by having your non-negotiables and your desirables? And your non-negotiables are your non-negotiables. Don't let anyone tell you that you're too strict about them, because you know what you want. You know what you want. For example, another one of my non-negotiables is I want my husband to have a career and for him to have been in that career for a while. Why? Because that is secure. No matter what that career is, as long as he's been in that career for a while and he's settled in that career, obviously things can change in the future. If in 5 years he decides he wants to completely change fields, I'm already locked in, so, fair enough. And knowing that he's a man that's submitted under God and I'm submitted under him, I will always trust his judgment. So, not saying that he has to stay in that career for the rest of his life, but upon meeting him, he needs to be in a career that is stable and he's been in it for a while. For me, that's a non-negotiable, right? But I guess another desirable is, what's another one of my desirables? That he knows how to play tennis. I've been playing tennis literally since I was about 7 years old. My dream date is going to play tennis. If he doesn't know how to play tennis, I'm not going to say no. You know, you're not my man. But I would love for him to know how to play because that's something that I love to do and I would be able to share that with him. So I found that when I was dating guys, or I have been dating guys, I feel like I've been too strict with my non-negotiables when I know I haven't been. But when I'm not meeting people that fit the bill of my non-negotiables, it makes me think, are these too strict? Like, for example, and I've made so many TikTok videos about this. If you don't already follow me on TikTok, I basically talk about stuff that I talk about on this podcast, but just in a shorter form. This podcast is like an outlet for me to have the long form content of the kind of things I discuss on my TikTok. So if you're interested, go have a listen. The link will be in my description for this episode and in every episode. But yeah, one of my non-negotiables is that my husband is abstinent. Going into the courtship, when I meet him, he's abstinent. And the reason I feel like I know it's the right thing to do, I know it's the right thing to want to be with someone that's abstinent, but dating is so hard because I have never met, that I'm interested in, I've never met an abstinent Christian man. And this is not me saying that they don't exist, so I don't want you guys in the comments saying, oh, we're here, we exist. I know you do. But I have never met a guy I'm interested in that is abstinent. And for me, that's a non-negotiable. I don't want to date someone. There was a dilemma last episode where someone talked about this, saying that they've met a guy that they go to the same church, he serves, he's a good Christian guy, but he's not abstinent. And for me, this is a principle I follow in my own life. I don't want to date someone who will be abstinent for me, because your abstinence is a commitment to God. It's not a commitment to me. So there's times where I've met a guy and we're hitting it off, you know. And I mentioned abstinence in one of the very first conversations. I don't like throw it onto them, but it's something I mentioned very early on. And you wouldn't think that you'd have to mention it, especially when dating Christian men, because like I said, another one of my non-negotiables is dating a Christian man. So if I'm dating a Christian man, you'd assume they're abstinent, but they're not. So when that conversation comes up and I'm like, oh yeah, like I've been abstinent for XYZ amount of time, and they're like, oh really? Like all of a sudden they have all these questions and they're intrigued and they want to know more. And immediately I'm like, yeah, wrap it up. Baby, call your Uber. You're not my man. And that honestly disheartens me because I've met so many great guys that I could have had great relationships with, but they're not abstinent. So it makes me feel like, okay, am I being too strict? Maybe I'll meet someone and maybe they'll realize that abstinence is something that they should do because I'm abstinent. But then I wake up and I'm like, no. The man I desire is pursuing abstinence in the exact same way that I am, because it's not for each other, it's our commitment to God. Because like I said last episode, it is difficult to uphold a boundary against your own body, right? So imagine having to do that by yourself. Because I promise you guys, I'm not holier than thou just because I'm sitting here on this mic. Put me in a room with a man that I'm emotionally and physically attracted to. If the mood is right, the panties are coming off. So I need to be with someone who is actively protecting that boundary with me. Because, hello, we're now in that room and I'm the one that wants to be abstinent and I'm trying to put it on you and you're not going to stop me. Things will happen. I promise you. I'm even looking in the sky right now, pointing my finger. I promise you things will happen. So I need to be with someone that is actively as passionate about protecting the boundary as I am. And because I've never met a Christian man who's abstinent that I'm interested in, it makes me think, am I ever going to find a Christian man who is abstinent, who I'm attracted to? It feels like there's so many things I'm expecting, which makes me feel like, am I going to get this? But this is how it should be. So that's just, I guess, a summary of why dating for me is difficult and why I think dating for a lot of people is difficult, because it's more than just me. Like, it's already difficult to date. Let's say if I was dating on a worldly standard, it's already difficult, by the way. It's already difficult. So now adding all these extra layers, and yes, it's in the name of faith, But adding all these extra layers makes it even harder. And it makes me lose hope. It honestly makes me lose hope. Like, I'm now at that point of dating where I'm like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I hate that I'm here because I know God's given me a heart to love someone and I'm not in a rush. One thing that I've realized and one thing that I'm really happy about when I was in my kind of single avoidant era, a good thing that came out of that is I learned to enjoy my life single. I live a very good single life. And not even to you know, be like, oh yeah, like I don't need no man. No, you'll never hear me say that. I love men. We need men. I'll never be I hate men, women. I love men. But I live a very good single life. I live well. I have amazing friends. I have an amazing network around me. I have a good job. Like, I take care of myself. I am happy single. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I desire to be with someone. So I'm not in a rush, but it would be nice. But it's difficult to see it as something that's tangible because every time I've kind of put myself out there or allowed myself to be seen by other people, it's so far from what I know I want. And also outside of it just being what I want, it's so far outside of what I know God wants for me. Because I know the things that I want are rooted in a good place. They're not rooted in vanity. They're not rooted in, like bad experiences. I just know these are biblical standards that I want to follow. This is the kind of person I want to be with. And I know God approves of that. If he doesn't, or if that changes, he'll tell me. But as of right now, the standard that I have for my courtship and what I want, I know God approves of that. So knowing that God approves of it, but there's no one there that fits the bill makes it so difficult. And at the same time, it's difficult to date as a Christian because where do you go? Where do you go? Where do you go to meet people? Where do you go to go on dates? Where do you go to, put yourself out there? Because I'm a big believer that the men are the pursuers, but women are the pursuees. I'm not saying I will never approach a man. I've slid in DMs before. I will never, I'm not afraid to shoot my shot. But I am a strong believer that women should position themselves for pursuit. But as a woman, where do you position yourself? For example, I've been on the dating apps. I'm on Hinge right now. And that place, my goodness. My goodness. Dating apps make you feel like... oh my gosh. Dating apps, I think, are the bane of me. They're the bane of me. But it's like, where else do I position myself? I can position myself in church, but I feel like people are too cautious in church when it comes to dating. It's okay to like someone. It's okay to take a liking to someone. It's okay to approach someone and talk to them. It's okay to have conversations. It's okay to be a little bit flirty. I'm not saying lips off near the pulpit. Of course I'm not saying that. But it's okay to show interest. I don't know why people act like... Because in church, realistically, is the perfect place to meet someone, by the way, as believers. It doesn't even have to be your church. It can be at a worship night at another church. It can be at a church conference. It can be Christian spaces. There are loads of companies or like events companies that do Christian games nights and sports days and Christian run clubs and all of these communities that are run by Christians. That, as a believer, is the perfect place to meet someone. So why is no one meeting one another? Why are people scared to approach? Why are people scared to say, hey, I've noticed you around the church a couple times. I think you're really good looking. Like, are you single? What's so wrong with that? What's so wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I feel like we're made to feel like there's something wrong with it because I can understand it is difficult. I'm not denying that it's difficult to date in the church because you don't want to date one person, it doesn't work out, and then it's awkward if you try to date someone else. But honestly, how else is it gonna go? Because just because you meet someone in church or you meet someone in an edifying space, that doesn't mean they're your person, by the way. We still have to date as Christians. You still have to do the weeding out. You still have to figure out if you're actually compatible with this person. Like, that's still something that you have to do. That doesn't change just because you met them in church, right? So I don't know why believers are so scared to do that. Riddle me, because I don't know. I have no problem. I have done before. We can get into that in another episode because my goodness, what a story. But I have before approached someone and said, hey, I'm feeling your thing. What you feeling mine? I've done that before. What's wrong with that? People in the church have come up to me before and said, oh, like, I think you're really pretty. I think you're really good looking. Like, are you single? Are you looking? And whatever my response was, I can appreciate that that person was brave enough to be like, you know what? I'm going to put myself out there, because people don't do it anymore. So I think a lot of the reason why dating as Christians is difficult is because we're the problem. Hello? Yeah. Dating as Christians is difficult because we are the problem. We're scared. And we shouldn't be. Bring back people just showing interest. There's nothing wrong with showing interest. Like, how do you think you're going to meet someone? How do you think you're going to end up married? You don't just click your fingers and you end up married. Look at the couples who are married that might go to your church. Ask them what their story is. And I can't wait to have like couples on this podcast who met in church or met in Christian communities and spaces, and how that actually happened, because they obviously didn't meet and just say, yeah, we're going to get married. They had to go through the courting process. And I really can't wait to have a guest on this podcast who's gone through a courting process that didn't work out, because it doesn't always work out. This is just how it goes. We ought to try with dating. We ought to give it a go. As believers, not dating doesn't make you better than anyone else. Dating is not a worldly construct. Same way as sex, like sex as an umbrella, dating comes under that. Sex is not a worldly construct, so I don't know why it's taboo. Dating is not a worldly construct, so I don't know why it's taboo. Well, no, dating is a worldly construct, actually. Courting is not a worldly construct. And that's another thing. Oh my gosh, I can go on and on. I gotta end this somewhere. But that's another thing. Christians don't court. Christians do not court. We cannot date. As a believer, when you meet someone that you like, mind you, attraction is the basis. Approaching someone because you think they're attractive is enough, by the way. You get to know them, I don't know why this is something that, doesn't make sense to people. Attraction is enough to approach someone. I feel like nowadays in this social media era, we have to think, okay, cool. Have they liked my story? Have they viewed my story? Have they DM'd me? Have they done this? It's enough to be attracted to someone to approach them. And this is why, as believers, we should be wanting courtship. Dating is doing the whole, okay, he liked my story. He did this. Has he seen my story? Oh, it's been 23 hours and he hasn't watched it yet. That's the anxiety that comes with dating. Courting is very simple. You see someone, you're attracted to them, you approach them and you say, hi, I think you're really good looking. I would love to get to know you, with serious intentions. Boom. That's how you begin to get to know someone. And of course, some people start off as friends. Some people like to start friendly, which, for me, I'm trying to be... For me, I'm not doing the friends to lovers trope. Sorry, Lord, unless you say otherwise, I'm not doing friends to lovers. I'm not doing friends to lovers. That man will see me, approach me. I will be a wife in less than a year. Everyone say amen. Come on. Let's fill this room with hallelujah. Let's even fill this room with tongues at this point, because that's going to be my story. I'm having a short courtship, a short engagement, and we're getting to the altar. We're getting to the altar fast. But for some people, you build a friendship, and that's also okay. That's another thing. Oh, we're going to be here for a while. That's another thing. It's okay to be friends with the opposite sex in church. Hello? I used to be the person that said, yeah, women and men can't be friends. And I still do believe that to some degree. I think women can be friends with men, but I think it's more difficult for men to be friends with women. That's another episode. But you can be friends with the opposite sex. Just because you see a guy and a girl in church talking, it does not mean they're getting to know each other. That could be bro. Not everything is romantic. And I think just in general, the church puts too much pressure. When you are getting to know someone, pressure. If you're not getting to know someone, pressure. And it shouldn't be that way. Dating is actually courting is very simple. It starts with attraction. You see the person, you like the person, you get to know the person, and if in getting to know that person, you can see yourself aligning with them, you you marry them. I mean, of course, it's not that simple, but really and truly, it is. And pray about it. Ask God. We all know that express delivery prayer. Lord, if this person's not for me, remove them. He'll remove them fast. That's one prayer he will answer you very, very quickly. Pray that prayer. And if they're still there after 24 hours, guess what? That might be your man. That might be your man. Like, come on. We need to stop putting so much pressure on dating in the church. Attraction is enough. Genuinely. This might be me sending a message. I'm joking, it's not me sending a message. But I just needed to vent. This was more for me than it was for anyone else. This was a venting session. I just needed to blow some steam. Because honestly, there's parts of me that are like, yeah, I'm never going to get married. It's not going to happen for me. I'm not going to find my fine, tall, sexy, handsome Christian man who has a fire for God and is submitted under him with a big back and big biceps. I'm not going to find that. But then God reminds me, who told you that? That's the voice of the enemy. Bad devil. Very bad devil. Of course I can have that. And I'm not wrong for wanting that. But, it's important to highlight that it's not easy. It's not easy. It is really hard. But this was just me venting. This was a therapy session for myself. I guess in future episodes, it will be easier to talk about dating when I have guests because I want to talk to actual Christian dating coaches. I want to talk to Christian couples and what their courtship actually looked like. I want to talk to married couples and what their courtship actually looked like because I think a lot of Christians are losing hope when it comes to finding someone. And being relatable is important, yes, but also one thing that I always say, and I can relate this to anyone, is feeling how you feel is valid, but also ground yourself in the truth. How I feel is not what God said, and I can't trust my feelings alone. God told me I was meant to be with someone, so I will be. And in his timing, So that was just a little 40 minutes in my brain, how I see dating. And I know, like I said today, I had no structure. I put my setup up, I switched this mic on, and I just started yapping. And I really think I needed this. And I hope that to some degree, like this episode just like humanized me a bit for you guys. Because I know it's very easy to listen to someone speak about something. And the past couple of episodes have been, my experience and then also doctrine. Not heavy doctrine. I haven't Bible bashed you, I don't think. But it's easy to listen to someone speak and forget that there's a person behind the voice. So I really hope that this episode helped like humanize me and helped, I hope you guys saw yourself in this episode because dating's not easy. And I know for so many of us, we're losing hope, but that's not the truth of what the word says. But yeah, this is another episode of Did She Just Say Sex? Make sure you're liking, subscribing, doing all the lovely stuff. And I'll see you guys next week. Okay, love you. Bye.